Hello, so my name is Guillermo David Berger Beretta, and I'm in the sports psychology class of Nick Tuttle of summer 2016, and I will be talking about injuries today. So, we all know that in collegiate athletes and recreational athletes, injuries will always be around the corner, whether they come from severe to not as severe. And what people really see when athletes get an injury is, of course, the physical damage, which could be very, very detrimental, of course, when it comes to broken bones or fractures or torn ligaments, which could be very hard on the athlete. But what people don't really tend to see is a psychological effect that the athlete really partakes in and really actually takes a heavier toll than the physical effect that people actually see. So to begin with, there's some physical effects that come immediately after an injury are of course the obvious pain and swelling depending on the severity again and the inability to move. Of course, again, depending on the severity of the injury. However, if this injury is a lot greater, it takes longer for it to heal, or else, in other words, it's not like a small sprain, a first degree sprain or something. Greater physical damage can take on the body, which can really mess up an athlete themselves, physically, of course. And what I mean by this is muscular dystrophy can take place. Potential weight gain can even happen, loss of appetite, and even affected performance, of course, after rehab and everything. Next is really what I really want to get into about is the psychological effect that really people don't tend to see. See, the first thing that comes after an injury is we're athletes are potentially really wired to think immediately after an injury, why did my body fail me? So the first thing that seems to go is their confidence. So they start to lack self confidence, and their self esteem immediately shoots down. Of course, it's because they've dedicated their life to this sport, and out of nowhere, their body just seems to fail them, quote unquote. And then they're just left out. And then, really, what comes next is their identity. So, if you're an athlete and you've been playing your whole life this sport and you've identified yourself as whether a gymnast or a soccer player, a hockey player, a football, baseball, tennis, badminton, whatever sport, track, whatever sport you really do, that's really your identity. You wouldn't say, for example, hi, my name is so and so, and I'm a student, as many students in universities do. You'd say like, hi, my name is so and so. I'm a Division One 100-meter sprinter or a Division One soccer player, and etc. And really, this leads moreover into the stress that begins to build up and pile up because they're lost and confused and they don't know who to socialize with and what to do since they can't even play the sport anymore. And the stress just starts to build up and build up and build up, which could really even lead to more psychological effects, which leads to what I already said about the sense of loss of self identity. This has an effect on the emotional and social role. They no longer seem to hang out with their teammates because they don't really attend practice and they're in a whole different environment. So, like an Olympian said after had an injury on her ankle, and really what she said after the injury was, I've dedicated my whole life to this sport and identified myself as and with this sport. And now that I can't play it for the rest of my life, it's really asking the question of who am I? And it's really not an easy transition to find a new identity. It's very difficult to move, like we had in the lectures, like we've all reviewed in the lectures, that even after retirement, uh, even professional athletes have this loss of identity because it's really hard to transition from an all-star NFL athlete, for example, to just a simple businessman on the side or just a father on the side or whatever their new identity may be if they ever even find one. Moreover, there's this loss of confidence, this loss of self-esteem, which really is what determines and helps you become a great athlete. This decrease in confidence really affects yourself socially and emotionally as you don't really want to be around anyone. And the thoughts of returning to the sport eventually start to reside if your injury really takes a long time. And really, your confidence to even go back into the sport, even picture yourself playing the sport, really, really tends to die down. It's actually really depressing on the athlete, and it's really takes an emotional toll. Actually, I think this is one of the most important, most valuable things that people tend to miss because it's just so simply hard to express. And not only this, but the lack of confidence can actually lead to stress and anxiety, which could even lead to more worse things. For example, this is usually so stress and anxiety is usually due to lack of self confidence, and I can't even begin to explain the impact it has on people's life. As you see this gentleman in the picture holding his head because he knows he won't be able to come back. This can have an impact on an athlete's even personal life. They'll be more stressed out at home. They'll be more anxious. They'll have this anxiety packed inside them. They'll get into fights with their wife, their friends. They don't want to socialize as much. And it can even lead to farther re injury or even a new injury because they're so stressed out that maybe they're doing physical therapy and they push themselves so hard because they're so anxious to get back into the sport that they injure another ankle or something. A really good example that comes to mind is this professional soccer player who was at the top of his game. Really, his name was Ramadel Falcao, and then tore his ACL and MCL at the same time, and hasn't even returned to the playing field since. And really, I could really see the pain that athletes truly go through this, as I have gone through it. And if you look at the last slide right here, I have myself had an ACL, MCL, and ACL repair all done at once, just from one simple injury. I have been at the top where I could play. I can call myself at the semi-professional level. I have seen, or what we call athletes, the dream that everyone wants to play, and it's not an easy thing to be being taken away of. Through my experience, it was detrimental. It hurt me emotionally, physically, and of course had the muscular dystrophy in my left leg. I still do. I'm still trying to get back into it. But not only that, but I I'm still trying to build my confidence today, 2.5 years after the injury, pretty much, to go out and play. And my first time playing will be in a couple weeks. But I don't feel like I'm ready, and it's really difficult to build that confidence. Finally, um, my loss of self identity wasn't there, but I think that throughout the process and perseveration and really help from everyone, that at the end the loss of self identity and everything can really be found, and hopefully soon everyone will be able to play their sport, especially an athlete at a collegiate level.